and welcome back to Millennial Mom Chatter. Today's episode is one that many of us can relate to, adult acne. Why is this still happening? How our gut health affects it, and what we can do to actually change it.
Because honestly, we thought breakouts were supposed to be a thing of our teen years. So we're bringing an expert in to break it all down. Maria Marlowe is a certified nutritionist, acne specialist, and a host of the Glow Life podcast. She's going to walk us through what to add, what to cut, or what helps in our diet to deal with our skin from the inside out.
It's going to be good and maybe a little painful if she tells us that we have to give bread and cheese up, but we're ready, so let's get into it.
We are so happy to have you joining us today. Heather and I are actually adults who do struggle with acne. So we're stoked to have this conversation with you today. So we'd love to just jump right in. Can you tell us a little bit how you got started in this journey with becoming an acne nutritionist and just kind of what your background is with that?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I had really bad acne that just would not go away despite trying all the things from drugstore topicals to infomercial proactive. I'm sure as a millennial, you remember those.
Yes.
How could you forget? You couldn't get away from those. And then even prescription medications. And everything that I tried maybe would work for a little bit and then it would come back, or it would make my acne worse. You know how they're like, oh, it's going to get worse and then it'll get better. I feel like mine always just got worse and never actually got better, or it never fully cleared, because once you stopped whatever you were doing, it just seemed to come back, especially with the pharmaceutical stuff, which you can't stay on forever. So I was just so bummed out at the time. I really thought I was cursed with either bad luck or bad genes because I couldn't figure out why I was still breaking out, despite the fact that I was doing everything I was quote unquote supposed to do. So long story short, I was introduced to this concept of food as medicine. And at first I was super skeptical. I was like, I've been to several dermatologists and not one of them have ever asked me what I was eating. So probably not going to work, but hey, I'm so desperate right now. I'll do anything. So I drastically overhauled my diet, which at the time was the standard American diet, like, pizza, French fries,
all the
Coca-Cola,
things,
cookies, And so, long story short, in about 3 months, my skin cleared up. And I was like, what the hell? And I had acne for 5 years, for almost 5 years, like 4.5 years by the time that it actually cleared up. So I was honestly in disbelief and I didn't think I was like, this must be a miracle. This is a fluke. Like there's no way that it was the food. I couldn't fathom that it could actually be my food and my gut health. So I was like, must just be a fluke. I'm going to go back to eating my pizza and chocolate chip cookies and Coca-Cola and all the things. And of course, the second I did that, my skin broke out again. So I was like, okay, fine. It really is the food. And then that's what ultimately set me on this path of studying nutrition, because I was just amazed. And then I was really down the rabbit hole and trying to get my hands on anything and everything that I could in terms of studies and research and books to understand this connection between diet and our skin, our gut and our skin. And surprisingly, there's quite a bunch of evidence out there, even though people they definitely weren't talking about it back then. That was in like the early 2010s, give or take. And so, or actually even before that, like the early 2000s. And so, I just said, if nobody's teaching us about the connection between diet and skin, I want to be that person. And that's ultimately how I went on to become a nutritionist and then specialize in acne.
Awesome. No, that's super cool because we have talked about this now that they're like, when you get older, your acne is going to go away. And we're like, we are well into our 30s and we're still dealing with it. And it's almost, sometimes I find it's sometimes worse than when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, we tell each other all the time, we're like, are we going to go to the 4th floor with acne? Like
gaslighting ourselves.
Well, statistically, back I think it's like 1970s, only about 10% of adult women had adult acne. Now it's anywhere between 20 and 50%, depending on the decade.
Wow,
and
that's
so
wild.
The acne rate has really increased significantly, even amongst teenage acne. Teenage acne today is about like 90 to 95% of teens in the US get acne at some point, whereas really just 50 years ago, maybe 70, 80 years ago, like it was less than half of that. So it's not genetic. It is for sure. It is environmental.
Yeah.
And it's, just our modern lifestyle seems like it is literally set up to disrupt our gut, and then that ultimately disrupts our skin. So our processed foods, sugar, antibiotics, medications, stress is a really big one that people sometimes leave out, but stress actually disrupts the gut. That will disrupt the skin and create breakouts. So just our hectic, fast-paced lifestyle, and we're eating out a lot, and it's hard to eat healthy, especially once you have kids, because I just had a kid and I'm like, oh my God, I have zero time to do anything, like let alone cook these gourmet, like well-balanced plates. It's hard. It's hard.
Yeah. It's hard. It's expensive too.
Yeah, and you really have to want to do it, and you have to be really disciplined to do it, because your day just gets away from you. It's very hard, for sure.
Yeah. Definitely relatable for sure. As fellow moms.
Sure. Yeah.
No, yeah, it's hard. It's we were talking about this a few podcasts ago, that like being healthy, like making sure you get in your workout and you get the right protein, you get the right this, like it's a full-time job.
It is.
Like it feels like by the time you get the kids out the door, you come home, you eat something quick, you do your workout, like then you get home and you shower and you do all your things. It's like, oh my God, the day's gone and I have to pick up the kids. Like,
it's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. The day goes by super fast. And that's what I'm saying is, like, you really need to plan, because if you don't plan, it's going to get very loosey-goosey, and it's going to be very hard to stick to any sort of healthy diet and lifestyle, because it does take time. All of these things, your workout takes time, preparing the food takes time, and it doesn't have to take a ton of time. Like, there are definitely some quick and easy recipes and things that you can throw together, but it still takes some time and some thought, some forethought. You have to get the groceries in the house, right? So there's definitely things that you need to think about beforehand. So I think planning, the best tip that I got from another mom was, like, you just need to plan. So sit down on Sunday, figure out the meal plan for the week, figure out
like meal prep.
When you're going to do it. Like, you need to figure out these things in advance. Otherwise they're not going to get done.
Yeah, I could see that for sure. So a lot of people don't understand that there is a connection between our gut health and our skin. Can you elaborate on that for us to kind of explain to our listeners how that might actually be connected?
Yeah, so this is actually fascinating. It's called the gut-brain-skin axis. And what it refers to is this bidirectional relationship between the three organs. So if you've ever blushed when you're embarrassed, you see how a thought can show up on your skin. Or if you've ever lost your appetite when you were stressed out, right? Or scared, or some emotion. Again, that's a thought affecting your gut. So all three of these organs, they're both connected, and they affect each other both ways. It's not like a one-way thing, just your thoughts affect. Like, even your gut can affect, for example, your gut microbiome. If you've been eating a lot of sugar or taking antibiotics and you've wiped out some of the good bacteria, and you have a lot of bad bacteria in the gut, that can actually, that's been linked to depression and mental health disorders. So that can be affecting the brain. So there it goes both ways. It's a two-way street between all these organs. And it sounds like sort of a newer concept, but actually over 100 years, or about 100 years ago, there were two dermatologists, John H. Stokes and Donald M. Pillsbury, who really set the foundation for what we now call the gut-brain-skin connection. And what they observed was that their acne patients tended to be more anxious. They tended to be the ones that worried a little bit more, or had some more of these negative thoughts or emotions. And they hypothesized that the mental thoughts were disrupting the gut, creating inflammation in the body, which would then show up on the skin. And through their research, and then in the decades since, other researchers have validated many of their theories. And what we know now is that stress, for sure, disrupts the gut. It wipes out some of the good bacteria, causing those bad bacteria, the pro-inflammatory bacteria, to increase. That creates inflammation in the body. That's now circulating in your blood and can show up in your skin as acne. So we know that stress is linked to acne and gut disruption. We know that a poor diet is linked to acne. So there are studies on different types of foods. Like, we know, for example, dairy and refined sugar, refined carbohydrates in large amounts, those are also linked to acne. So the more of those foods that we eat, the more likely we are to have acne. And so stress and diet are two huge acne triggers. And that is because it's all connected, because of that gut-brain-skin connection.
Gosh, don't say bread and cheese.
I know. And honestly, this just like comes like moms. Like this is yeah, like it just sounds like mom life though. Like everything you described, like stress, we might be picking the easier convenient foods.
Yeah.
Like we're prioritizing ourselves less. So everything you said, I feel like now I get why maybe like Heather and I might struggle with this because it's like
yeah. So one really big piece of the acne puzzle, especially as it relates to this gut brain skin connection, is keeping your blood sugar stable. So what we know is that when we're eating a lot of these convenience foods, which are typically refined carbohydrate foods, right? They're made with flour. So things like pretzels and crackers and pasta and bread, all these kinds of things, they're refined carbohydrates. And when we consume them, that causes our blood sugar to increase. That's going to increase our insulin and a hormone called IGF-1. The more IGF-1 that you have, the more oil you're going to have on your skin and the more likely your skin is to clog. Also, the more inflammation in your body. So these foods are creating inflammation in the gut. And again, anything that's happening in the gut with inflammation, that can leak out into the bloodstream and create inflammation body-wide, which then shows up on the skin. So one tip, well, a couple tips in terms of keeping your blood sugar stable. It's not that you can never eat these foods for the rest of your life. No, it's about doing it smartly.
I can't do that.
Yeah, it's about doing it smartly. Exactly. So for one thing, so for dessert, say you want something sweet, you want a cookie, you want a brownie, whatever it is. Instead of having it as a snack at 3:00 on its own, have it actually as dessert. So don't have desserts as snacks, because if you eat it on an empty stomach, it's going to have a more significant impact on your blood sugar than if you eat it at the end of a well-balanced meal. So if you have, some vegetables and a piece of protein, for your meal, and then you have the dessert, your blood sugar is going to stay more stable than if you just have the dessert. So that's one tip. When you want to have a snack, make it savory. So hummus and carrot sticks or celery sticks. You could do like a chomps, like those meat sticks. That's an option. Pickles, olives, whatever you want. Just keep it savory. And another tip would be actually the order that you eat your food. So let's say you want some pasta. Then instead of just eating a huge bowl of pasta on its own, you could do one of two things. One, add in some protein and add in some veggies. So chop up some veggies. What I used to do, actually I haven't made this in a long time, is when I'm boiling the pot of water for pasta, I would put a steamer basket on top and I would steam some vegetables, sometimes even just using frozen vegetables, so that it's like kind of at the same time. And then you throw that all in together, and then maybe have some piece of like baked chicken or salmon or whatever protein you want. Chop that up and then put that on top and mix it all together and have that as a dish. Because once you have that added fiber and protein, again, that's going to keep your blood sugar more stable.
Yeah, like I digest differently.
Exactly. So it's going to be better than just eating the pasta on its own. So there's a lot of tricks like that. Another thing you can do is, okay, like let's say you eat a carb heavy meal. Go for a walk, even just a 10-minute walk afterwards. That will help to keep, prevent your blood sugar from going up sky high. So there's all these little tips and tricks and things that you can do to manage your blood sugar without like 100% getting rid of the refined carbs. But I will say definitely moving towards more whole carbs, as much as possible. That is key.
Right. Those are some really good tips. Yeah. Like I try to walk after I eat all the time. It doesn't always happen, but I try to, because I've heard that it helps. What is it? I think your insulin spike, I think it like reduces it by like 35% or something like that. I've heard. And I was like, that's interesting, just by walking for 15 minutes after
a meal. Yeah.
Yeah. So one fun thing that I sometimes advise people do, or offer them the option to do if they want. It's not necessary, but for anyone who likes seeing data or is motivated by data, you can get a continuous glucose monitor. There's a bunch of companies now that offer them where you don't need a prescription for it. So you can just get it and just wear it for 2 weeks. And what it's going to do is it's going to show you your blood sugar in real time. And you'll see, okay, this meal that I thought was really healthy actually spiked my blood sugar up crazy high. And then there was a huge crash. Yeah. And then you'll also see like, oh, actually, I didn't feel so great after that meal. And you can see, oh, actually my blood sugar was up and then it was down and I didn't feel good, so you start connecting the dots. And some interesting observations that I've realized when I was doing it, because it's one thing to read it, to read like, oh, walking will reduce your spike, or stress will increase your blood sugar. It's one thing to read it, but it's another thing to actually see it in real time. So I was doing some experiments when I was wearing it. And for example, even eating a cup of fruit, like at 3 p.m., having a cup of pineapple, that spiked my blood sugar. And then the other thing that spiked it a lot, well, I'll just say, then if I ate some flax crackers with hummus first and then ate the pineapple, fine. Blood sugar was good.
Wow.
It stayed in range. So again, little tiny tweak. The other thing that spiked it a lot was like arguing with my husband over something stupid. It was just like, something stupid. I don't even remember what it was about, but I just remember getting like flustered and angry. And then my blood sugar was like, whoosh, like all the way to the top.
That's interesting.
Like more than food. So, and he was wearing it at the same time. And he was like, he just likes to, push the buttons. And then he was fine. He was cool as a cucumber. His blood sugar is good. That made me even more mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, the human body, like, I started my medical career as a paramedic, and we always said, like, treat the numbers, not the patient, because everybody's different. Mm-hmm. Your blood pressure at, 80 over something, you might feel really lightheaded, and somebody else that might be like not far off from their normal. Yeah. So like, it's crazy because with something like that, like a tool like that, you're able to like identify like what triggers it for me.
Yes.
Not for somebody else, but for me.
Exactly. And another kind of
that's really cool.
Like thing people wouldn't think of, certain exercise. If you were exercising, like doing a crazy hard class, like, I don't know, a berries or something, especially at, 6:00 in the morning and you haven't eaten or whatever it is, that's also going to stress you out and cause a huge blood sugar spike and stuff. So it is interesting because it's, like you said, it's telling you, what you need specifically, not some generalization. Yeah. So it allows you to adapt, and I think encourages you to make those changes rather than just a hypothetical reading something.
Yeah, for sure. Super cool. So what are some signs that your skin, like, that you are getting acne because of your gut? Like, does acne always come from your gut, or do you find that also there's other triggers? How would you know it's coming straight from your gut?
Yeah. So with chronic acne, there's almost always some sort of gut component for sure, because the two are so linked. So really, in my experience, in my practice, in my research, I found that there are about 6 really common triggers for acne. One is nutrient deficiencies. So some of the common ones are vitamin A, omega-3, and zinc, because these are not necessarily found in a huge variety of foods that we're eating on the regular in the Western diet. Vitamin A, for example, is found in liver, like organ meats, or it's also in dark leafy greens or orange veggies, which sometimes, like, we all know those are healthy, but do we actually eat them on any sort of regular basis? It depends. Not many of us, right? So that's the thing. Omega-3, again, this is not found in a huge range of foods. It's primarily in wild seafood, certain types of wild seafood, and then also in seeds like hemp seed, chia seed, flax. So if you're not eating these on a regular basis, you're probably not getting enough. And where the gut comes in there is that maybe you are eating these foods, but maybe there's some sort of gut dysfunction in which you're not able to absorb your nutrients very well. So that's kind of where the gut piece comes in there. So I'd say nutrient deficiencies is a big one. Any sort of gut dysbiosis. So not enough good bacteria, too much bad bacteria, or what's called leaky gut, increased intestinal permeability. This can contribute to acne. And there have been studies done on the guts of acne patients and comparing them to healthy, clear skin controls. And what they find is that people with acne tend to lack the good lactobacillus and bifidobacteria strains in their gut. They also tend to have more of the pro-inflammatory bacteria, and they're more likely to have increased intestinal permeability or leaky gut. So all of those could be creating inflammation. And that is why probiotics, I think, are so important for acne patients, because we really need to replenish those good bacteria in the gut and really heal and seal that gut lining. So probiotics are, really, really important. Another trigger for acne is going to be that blood sugar imbalance. So you could be eating really healthy generally, but for whatever reason, your blood sugar is on a roller coaster because maybe the order of food you're eating, or maybe you're having healthy foods, but you're also having a lot of refined carbohydrates, right? You're not having enough protein, whatever it is. That could be a huge trigger. hormonal imbalances. But what's interesting, I always say whenever you have a hormonal imbalance, whether it's hormonal acne or something else, don't blame your hormones. Blame whatever is causing your hormones to become imbalanced.
So like us,
Yeah.
we're like, I think that our acne is hormonal and we don't know what to do.
It's not my fault.
Yeah. So no, it's not your fault. I mean, look, it's modern life, but hormones are messengers.
Yeah.
So hormones are messengers. So they are responding to the environment, to your diet, to whatever's going on.
Of course.
So the easiest way to think of that is stress hormones, right? If you're sitting on the beach, sipping a cocktail, reading a book, hearing the ocean, and you're very relaxed, you're not going to have cortisol coursing through your veins. But if if you're in the school rush and you're hectic and you don't have time to eat and you're running here, there, and everywhere, you're going to have cortisol, right? Because your body is reacting to the environment, to what's going on. So so if there is like a documented hormonal imbalance, then I would first actually look at the diet and lifestyle and what, if there's anything that is contributing to the hormonal imbalance. And many times just a few small tweaks into that diet and lifestyle can help bring you back into balance. And then there is also a gut component there. So the way that we get rid of excess hormones is through the stool. So your liver breaks them down, sends it to the stool to be eliminated. And if we're constipated, meaning we're not going every day or we're not completely evacuating every day, then those hormones
evacuating
reabsorb into the bloodstream. Yeah, that's why gut health is literally so important for clear skin and for hormone balance and for health, is because we need to be regular to get the excess hormones out that our body doesn't need anymore and prevent some of those imbalances. Stress is another one. That's another root cause of acne, which I know can sometimes seem unavoidable, but it's not so much like we don't need to move to a deserted island and, like shut off modern life. It's just about how we respond to the stress. And so things like meditation and breath work, or even just changing your mindset. Honestly, I feel like your perspective on things, like what you allow to stress you out, right? Because someone can get a scratch on their car and not really care. And someone can get a scratch on their car and have a, burst a blood vessel. So it's really our perception of the stressor that causes stress for us. So it's a matter of how we look at like our kids making a mess or, I don't know, doing something we don't want them to do. That's a stressor, but our stress depends on our perspective of it. So, realizing that and shifting our perspective on that can be really helpful. And then, I would say those are some of the big ones. Sometimes they're like comedogenic products, obviously could be causing breakouts, or also using too harsh of products. Like I know now it's very trendy to use 10-step skincare and all these acids and peels and this and that and the other thing. And like your skin, it's a living, it's an organ, right? We have to be gentle and careful with it. So anything that's making us more red and irritated, sometimes that could also be causing a problem. So my whole philosophy is we need to figure out what's going on inside with the diet and lifestyle and remedy it there. Let the diet and lifestyle do the heavy lifting. And then we really only need very gentle skincare on the outside to, be the icing on top.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And honestly, we almost are doing too much. Like I'm guilty of the 20-step skincare routine. And then I'm like, why is my skin mad at me?
Your skin's like, just chill. Like, cause that's what I tell people, like our body will, turn over the skin cells. It will, like if we're eating a very nutrient dense diet, our skin will be more soft and supple. Like we won't, like, of course we do need to cleanse. We need to, moisturize, maybe do a spot treatment here or there. But other than that, our skin doesn't need that much stuff. And sometimes we're just doing too many things and our skin's like, like I can't keep up, or the skin barrier is depleted. So your skin becomes more reactive.
Yeah. It's overwhelming. Yeah. Like you see these, like 20, 2-year-old girls, they're like these morning vlogs, and they'll put like 30 things on their face. And I'm like, what?
But they also don't need it. They have like beautiful, like supple skin
like,
with no acne.
I know. Like, please don't do it. I mean, even younger than that, like my nieces are, mean, like 12 and 13, and they want to go to Sephora and like buy everything. I'm like, please don't, like, please, no, just leave your skin alone. It's so perfect right now.
Yeah. I know you had mentioned earlier that you had made some diet changes for yourself to kind of get on top of your gut health and everything. Do you have any like favorite foods that we can start adding to our diet today that we can try out, or things that we should just go ahead and cut out and stop buying
completely?
So I love to focus on, what we can add in. So some of the best foods for acne prone skin: dark leafy greens, things like kale, spinach, chard, beet greens, broccoli. Anything dark, leafy, and green is going to be great for your skin. It's going to be a good source of fiber and nutrients. Anything also orange, like orange vegetables or fruit, things like sweet potatoes, carrots, those are a source of beta carotene, which the body converts to vitamin A, which is really great for our skin. Any sort of wild caught seafood is nice, is good for the skin. Things like wild salmon, anchovies, sardines, mackerel, any sort of those fatty fish, they tend to be a good source of omega-3, and omega-3 is really important for clear skin. I also love seeds like the hemp seed, chia seed, flax seed. So when I had really bad acne, one thing that really helped me was adding a tablespoon of ground flaxseed to my diet every single day. So sometimes I would put it on a salad or in a smoothie or into oatmeal or whatever it was I was eating. I would put on a tablespoon of flaxseed, and that was really helpful because that's a good source of fiber and the plant-based omega-3s. And what else? Anything really like, your vegetables and fruit are going to be helpful, especially anything very richly colored like pomegranate or blueberries, blackberries. These are going to be a great source of antioxidants. They're going to be helpful. And I would say those are some of my favorite. Oh, and then I would say fermented foods. So things like sauerkraut, kimchi, pickles, but pickles you have to really like look at the label because most pickles that you'll see at the grocery store, they're quick pickled with vinegar. So they don't actually have the probiotics in them. So you want to look.
So how do you, I was going to say, what do you look for then?
So you want to look for any sort of pickles that are, sometimes they'll say traditionally fermented, or the best thing is to just look at the ingredient list. So it should just say the vegetable and salt or maybe spices, but there shouldn't be vinegar in there. If there's vinegar, it's been quick pickled, and so it will taste like a pickle, but it's not actually fermented, so you're not getting the probiotic benefits. So
I had no idea.
I didn't know you could make pickles without vinegar.
Yes. So they're fermented, so they just ferment them. And it is, honestly, it's harder to find them these days. Like, especially in a regular grocery store, you kind of have to go to a health food store or more health focused store to find a traditionally fermented, depending where you live. And that's why also probiotics, I think, are so important, because if you're not getting in traditionally like fermented foods on a daily basis, then taking a probiotic supplement, I think, is really beneficial. And even if you are eating the fermented foods, because with the probiotic, you are getting strains, if you choose the right probiotic, you're getting strains that have some sort of documented benefit. So that is why actually, in my work and in doing my research on the gut-skin connection and the gut microbiome, the connection to acne, I actually formulated a probiotic called Biome that's specifically for acne-prone skin. And it's made with 6 targeted probiotic strains that target that gut-skin connection. So that helps to reduce breakouts and to balance oil production and even improve skin hydration, all from the inside out by working on the gut. So definitely getting in probiotics and prebiotics. Prebiotics come from fiber. So that's why, again, the vegetables and the fruit, those are really important in the diet, is really, really important for clear skin.
Yeah. Awesome. Yeah. And what are like do you have any simple steps like outside of maybe food that you're like, this should be in your skincare routine? Or is there any things that you're seeing in the skincare industry that you're like, why stop doing that? Like that everyone's doing.
Yeah. Well, definitely the 10-step skincare. I'm like, do anything, like keep it simple. Yeah. But okay. So some things that I love that are a bit unconventional. I love tea tree oil as a spot treatment. It's amazing because it's very potent anti-inflammatory, and it also has antimicrobial properties as well. So if you're a picker, which don't pick your skin, but I know it's inevitable. Like I'm not perfect. Like if I see something there that I gotta pop, I'm gonna pop it. Like,
yes, I don't know how people leave it.
Yeah. So I actually have a video on YouTube about how to like pop a pimple correctly, or like which ones you can pop and which ones you should not pop. Because sometimes if they're not ready to go and you start digging around, it just makes things worse.
Okay. You make a massive zit.
You made it worse. Yeah. Exactly. We'll definitely share that. We're going to share your video because that's awesome.
So, but yeah, so tea tree oil is good for both of those things, whether you picked it or not picked it, it's helpful.
Yeah.
So I say I'd really like that. Another thing I would say, like, I don't think you really need to wash your face in the morning. As long as you washed it in the evening, you know, you did your simple skincare in the evening. Once you wake up in the morning, you know, your face shouldn't be dirty. Like there shouldn't be anything on there that you need to wash away. And you actually want to keep those natural oils on your skin, because when we strip too much of the oil away, your skin actually compensates by producing more oil. So, and that can then end up, you know, contributing to clogged pores and things. So I would say not actually washing your face in the morning.
Which is, people are like, what?
Yeah. And let's see, what else? Yeah, I would say if you have acne, definitely don't do that. Is it called dermaplaning, where you kind of like shave your face?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely not for acne prone peeps. And
what do you think about that in general, though?
Yeah,
I'm not a huge fan in general, honestly. I know some people swear by it, and I'm not an esthetician, so I know some estheticians will say differently, but it's scraping off. You're scraping off that top layer. Like your skin needs that. And, you know, you could just be, if you're going to do it, I would definitely not do it myself. I would go to an esthetician who's really trained in how to do it properly and not go too deep. But I think that you are kind of scraping away some of the things that you need, and that may end up actually making your skin more sensitive, more reactive to things.
For sure. Yeah. For sure. So, I mean, I feel like you've really covered, you didn't even have to let us ask a lot of questions because you covered it so well. But where can everyone find you?
Yeah.
You do have a podcast, so if you can tell us a little bit about that, because I feel like you said, so many of us now struggle nowadays with acne. So like the more we can learn is like the better. So where can we find you?
Yeah. So, okay. So my website is mariamarlowe.com, and Marlowe is spelled Marlowe. And there's a ton of blog posts and content on there all about acne and diet. And there's also some great recipes, clear skin recipes. So that's a great starting point. I do have also my podcast episodes on there. So I have been on hiatus with my podcast for quite some time, but I do have this whole backlog of episodes, hundreds of episodes, that are still, you know, viable to listen to. So that you'll also find on my website, or it's called The Glow Life. You could also find it on iTunes and all the podcast channels. And then on social media, it's Maria Marlowe on Instagram, and on TikTok and YouTube, Glow by Marlowe. So I'm kind of all over the place. Whatever channel you like, you can find me.
We'll make sure to link them below. Yes. And then you also have your probiotic.
Yes. So my probiotic, Glow Biome, that website, actually, we have a blog. It's called Skin School. That is actually a wealth of information on all things gut skin connection and diet and acne. And it really kind of goes very deep with all, you know, linked research on everything on those kind of topics. So that is, the website is kumaglow.co. So that's KUMAGLOW.co.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And then also all of the plethora of information. Like, we appreciate it, as do our listeners. And we're definitely going to share. So stay tuned, everybody, for the website information, her social media, her podcast, as well as the probiotic and where to find it.
Yeah. So thank you so much for joining us. And we really appreciate that you take your time and chat with us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course.
Alrighty, guys.
Bye.